we will begin to talk about the schedule right here. So again, Valentine's should be right around the corner. There also appears to be an indication as of right now that JP is going to be getting Valentine's news. They have the Fate Winter Party event that Maestro is on. So again, if you guys haven't seen that, he is going to a bunch of the Fate locations in Japan. So the locations that actually inspired the look of the original visual novel. And it's really, really interesting to see. But he is also going to be going to that party that they're doing. It's going to be live streamed on the 4th. Mr. True Love Trouble will also be covering it as well. So definitely go check him out if you guys haven't. But there's rumors that JP will get Valentine's news there. As for NA, I wouldn't expect it just yet, but I think you can expect that we will probably soon get news on the Grail front. We've only got a little bit of time left on NA. In fact, let me double check that just to be safe here. As of this recording, there is 1 day and change left. So I do think you're going to start to hear news soon. That's why I put it in the stream title yesterday. And again, it's what I want to talk about right now today. So let's talk about Holy Grail Frontier Tuber 10. There's really not a whole lot with it. It will be time gated. This is kind of why they do this, is to keep you guys playing the game every day. I know people don't necessarily like this, but it is a thing. So it just means every single day you guys will have a new Grail front to do for the first 7 days. Now, keep in mind, the event is 2 weeks long, so you will have time. However, the big thing I wanted to point out to you there was that Valentine's overlapped with the second week. Okay, so you have 7 days to get it done. If you don't finish it in that time, you might be having to get it done in the middle of Valentine's Day. That's up to you, but we'll talk about Valentine's Day in the future. Again, it will have some fun stuff for you to do as well. This is actually where JP servants started getting craft essences equipped on enemies, and that is what it is. But really not too many actually big changes, I would say, with regards to the Grail front proper. The big one's actually going to come at, I believe it's Camelot, which is where I think the movement scheme changes. If not, then I think it was Camelot, was that one. But again, really nothing too crazy about that. If you guys haven't ever done a Grail front, the way that they kind of work is I can actually liken them to somewhat of some of the other gachas that I have seen and played. It's a very similar mechanic to something like Girls Front Lines maps, if you've ever seen it. So you've got a map laid down with nodes on it. Those nodes may have particularly good offensive or defensive buffs on them, but ultimately you're going to be moving throughout that map and those nodes trying to get at the enemy master. The problem is the enemy team also has their own servants that can try to combat you. And so you guys will see you will be restricted by a much lower party cost. You will also be restricted as to which units you can take. Now, again, it's just a class restriction and a party cost restriction, so you can be fine. A lot of players just don't even take craft essences on some of their units. There are plenty of ways you guys can actually just solo with a really OP version of one of your units. And there are particularly really good units that are suited for stuff like that in Grail fronts, since they operate on a little bit of a different hierarchy in terms of skill cooldowns and such. But that being said, all in all, it's a pretty straightforward event. If you're actually a newer player and you have a hard time doing this, there are guides out there. I don't remember who makes them, but again, I do know some people actually have recordings of basically how to solo these by virtue of using like a level 1 unit and just running around and yeeting things. It basically abuses the AI to trick it and kind of lull it into a false sense of security, and then they basically just go and kill the enemy master. When you hit them 3 times, you win. And that's essentially the basis of Grail fronts. Either hit the enemy master 3 times to win, or you end up killing all the enemy servants, and then that also causes victory. So whichever one of those comes first. Again, you guys will get the 7 Grail fragments for the 7 Grail fronts. And then as you combine all 7, that gives you a Grail. So you guys can find that in the Da Vinci shop. There is an area to combine your Grail fragments as you get them. Definitely a nice thing. I often wonder too, is this maybe where they got the idea for Grail printing from? But who knows? Interestingly enough, there are only 2 other Grail fronts after this. This one right here, then you get Camelot, and then you get the BB one that happened almost an entire year afterwards. They really haven't touched Grail fronts in a long time, so we'll just have to see. Again, it's going to talk about the game flow and stuff here. Like I said, if you're really worried about this, honestly, there are plenty of guides out there to help you. But logically, the big thing that I think a lot of people is just going to talk about is the actual summoning campaign proper. Now, again, just dealing with this, Romulus is an interesting unit. Remember, you guys are headed towards the Koyanskaya system, and he is a 30% charger. The way Romulus will work in that system is if you max out his mana loading append, he will be able to 3 turn starting from 50% charge if you have Oberon on top of the double Koyanskaya setup. So that's a really nice thing for him. It means he can deal a lot of damage, have a lot of firepower. He basically starts from the same location that a lot of 50% chargers start from as a result of that. But he is just able to really do a lot of nice things. Now, obviously there are some really good AoE Lancers coming out this year, particularly Melisande later in the year. So if you have your eyes on her, you might not want Roma, but that's just up to you. Roma is definitely somebody that has held up pretty well over time. Obviously you've got Altera in here. She is permanent, but she is another little bit of a monster there. We'll go over her at a later point as well. And again, you guys can definitely see where in the Koyanskaya setup, she has become pretty crazy now as a 3-turning AoE Saber. And then obviously you guys have Estrella, who's another really nice unit to have, not only just for challenges, but also just for sheer raw firepower, especially against evil traded enemies. And then Umu, who herself is really nice for challenge due to the fact that she has 3 times guts on it. She also now has arts up and charge, so she can actually function a little bit as a farming saber for you, though not really going to be the best in terms of refund. But still, a lot of nice units in the summoning campaign. But I think the big issue here is going to be a lot of people trying to save. Otherwise, there's really not too much else to even cover in this. I'm not going to bother going through each individual Grail front. And then, yes, this is where you guys will get the Olympian Bloomers unlock permit. And then also the upgrades for Boudica and Caligula, which I talked about in the all strengthenings video that we just released. So again, you guys can find that info there. Be on YouTube, we are on YouTube. So again, that'll be a wrap for this one. Thank you guys for watching.